Hello and welcome to the Catch the Lift Coaches Corner. I'm Cal Coach Melissa, and this week I'm honored to welcome retired U.S. Air Force Sergeant Lindsay Escher to the show. Lindsay is a retired U.S. Air Force veteran, Cal veteran athlete, fellowship program manager with Upstate Warrior Solution, and so much more. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coaches Corner. Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you and talk with you. Let's get right into it, Lindsay. Would you talk to us a little bit about what would ultimately lead you to join the Air National Guard?
Yeah, so, it's funny because growing up, I'm like, what do I want to do, right? What do you want to do? And I knew I wanted to be a cop. I knew that much. And then somebody said, what about the military? What do you want to do? So originally I was like, I want to be a Marine. And then, but I'm also an athlete. So I said, well, what can I do? How can I do both? And so I said, well, you can do the Air National Guard, which is right outside of where I live. We have a base up in Niagara Falls, and you can also be an athlete at Buffalo State College. So I was like, let's do that.
Heck yeah!
So in '99, this was 2 years before 9/11. I said, let's do it, and so I did it, and it was honestly the best decision I made, and it was great. I got to play 2 years, and then 9/11 happened. So
yeah, and I imagine stuff changed then quite a bit. Lindsay,
yeah.
would you talk to us a little bit about what you remember most about training up as a young airman in the kind of 99, 2000 era?
Yeah, so I think it was a lot different than probably what it is now. So I would imagine in '99, 2000, when I was going through, you kind of had this sense of there's not really anything going on. There weren't any crises going on, but you knew at the drop of a dime, if you had to, you were going to go. And so you're training to go if you need to go. And exactly that happened on 9/11. I was just this kid that was getting ready for school, going to college classes, and 9/11 happened, and it was, I had my softball gear in one hand and I had my uniform in the other, and it was let's get to the base and let's rock and roll.
So what would happen, with your career after 9/11, Lindsay?
Yeah, so for me, it became, I went from citizen airman to pretty much active duty for almost 3 years. We deployed right away for the most part. We were stationed at my base for about a month before we got orders to ship out. Initially, we thought we were going to go down to the World Trade Center site. Ended up going to Anders Air Force Base. We were there for about a year altogether. Came back home station and redeployed out to Kyrgyzstan initially, and then I ended up doing fly missions to Afghanistan. So altogether, it was about 3 years away from home in what was initially going to be just 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, going to college. So it was definitely a different path than I thought it was going to be, but it was honestly the most honorable, and it was such a privilege to be able to do that. It gave me such a great sense of purpose, and I wouldn't change a thing.
What were you doing in the Air Force at that time, Lindsay?
So I was security forces, which is essentially military police in the Air Force. We kind of do everything. We do the air base ground defense. We do law enforcement on the bases. And when we deployed after 9/11, it was more air base ground defense, but also going outside the wire as well, which was kind of new for security forces. So it was different. We had to really adapt and change what our mission was, compared to probably what security forces was pre 9/11.
Right. What year would you be in Afghanistan, Lindsay?
I was there between '02 and '03.
So that was still very early in the war. What was it
very,
like
very
then?
early. It was pretty hot, not not temperature wise, but but yeah, I mean, pretty hot. You know, I remember getting off of C-130. We flew into Kandahar, and we did a combat landing. So, you know, plane comes pretty much straight down, the worst roller coaster ride in your life imaginable,
Yeah.
right? And and then from Kandahar we went to Kabul and got off of the plane, and the pilot's like, "We're gonna stop here for a minute, but then we're getting right back on the plane and flying back to Ghanzi Air Base, which is where we were in Kyrgyzstan." And he said, "Just stay in the rope lines." And I'm like, "Okay, what happens if we don't?" He goes, "Well, there's mines everywhere." I'm like, "Come on, man, you gotta be kidding me." He's like, "No, stay between these rope lines and you'll be good." So I stayed between those rope lines.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm here, you know, talking to you. Um, so you know, nothing like, you know, what other guys and girls have gone through over there, but um, definitely as a 20-year-old kid at the time, an eye-opening experience to have been over there at that time. Um, Pretty crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you touched on it a minute ago, Lindsay, so you joined the Air National Guard, citizen airmen, um, that changed very abruptly after 9/11, and you'd go on to, 3 years of, active duty and deployments. Where would
Mhm.
your career take you from there, Lindsay?
Yeah, so after that 3 years, I came back. I said, you know, I'm going to go back to college. I did. I played uh, the rest of my softball career at Buffalo State. I was like the old lady on the team.
What was that like for you going back to college, being on an athletic team after, you've been to war now, you've been in Afghanistan.
It was tough. Mentally, it was tough. You know, things that bothered, that were so trivial to me,
Yeah.
um, that seemed like the biggest deal to the rest of the team. It was hard. It was very hard to wrap my head around why it was such a big deal. Um, so it was really hard, just mentally, for me to be on the team those last 2 years. But I don't believe in quitting something just because
Yeah.
it's mentally hard.
Right.
Um, so I stayed on. I'm glad I did, but it was definitely a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge. It was a
Yeah.
challenge for sure. For sure.
So following that time on active duty for those 3 years, coming back, going to college and being kind of more in that citizen airman role again, did you miss your active duty time, or were you happy, content to be back in, a guard drilling status?
I missed it.
Yeah.
So I missed it so much that I sought out, you know, how can I get back on active duty? So I left my unit that I was in, went over to a different unit, got on active duty with them, and then I just bounced around New York State, which has seven different Air National Guard units,
Okay.
and just bounced around on active duty. I went up to Northeast Air Defense Sector, which is up in Rome, New York, and stayed on active duty with them for about a year. I went over to Scotia, New York, which has the ski birds that fly out to Antarctica every year for the scientific mission out there. Never got to Antarctica though. I mean, that was a bummer. But but when I got to Scotia, I got one of the greatest opportunities I could have ever imagined. Um, I was able to stay on active duty there, but in doing so, I was able to be part of the honor guard, um,
Wow.
which was part of Hanscom Air Base in Massachusetts, which is an active duty air base. And talk about an amazing experience, which I never would have imagined being part of that. But it was
How would
it
it
was
come how would it come to be, Lindsay, for you to become a part of the honor guard?
so somebody said to me, you know, Escher, your boots already always shine, your uniform uniform is already pressed. And this is back when, you still had to shine your boots. You
Right.
still had to
Yeah.
press your uniform. Now, you can like wash it and you
Rumple
don't
and
have to do
go.
anything, right?
Yeah.
But
For sure.
somebody said you should try out for the honor guard team. And I'm like, what is it, like 1 week in a month I got to do that? And they said, no, this is active duty. You're doing it all. So okay, fine, I'll try out for it.
And
And
tell us, I'm sorry, Lindsay, tell us too, for anyone listening that isn't familiar with the honor guard, what it
sure.
is.
So honor guard is it's kind of a whole gamut of things. Not only is it events and parades and things of that nature, but it's also, which is the bread and butter of it, is honoring veterans at funeral services. So you're performing the folding of the flag, the presenting of the flag, the 21 gun salute, the taps, all of those honorable things for the family. Um, so I was selected to be part of the honor guard, and I did that for a year, and it was an amazing experience that I will never forget. And the funerals were all the way up to World War II, all the way down to post 9/11 veterans. So it was really difficult, but also a privilege. Um, so yeah.
That, thank you so much for your service to our great country, Lindsay. Thank you so much for the time and care you put into being on the honor guard. It's absolutely tremendous, and an honor to talk with you about that. Would you talk to us a little bit, Lindsay, about the preparation and practice that would go into this?
For sure. So we were 24/7. So we would Monday through Friday we'd be back at our barracks, and we would practice. We would practice folding the flag. We would practice movements. We would prep our uniforms. We would practice our 21 gun salute, in addition to the logistical side as well. So, and that could mean anything from coordinating the funerals and contacting the funeral homes and all the setup that goes into that. But a lot of it was preparation and planning, and making sure that we were tight.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is get to a funeral and screw it up. Um, that family is already having the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
Um, they don't need to see an Air Force honor guard there that's going to screw it up. And we don't want to screw it up for that
Right.
family. So our week was full of prepping for that day, whenever it may be. Because we went, sometimes we could go a week or two without a funeral, but we were always ready for one.
Yeah. Lindsay, would you talk to us a little bit about what it was like for you to experience so many funerals of fallen service members?
Yeah, it was hard. So I think the hardest one for me was it was a 32-year-old Air Force PJ. Uh, he wasn't killed in action. He was actually killed in a training accident down at MacDill, and he was obviously flown back up to Scotia. That's where he was from, and it was we're standing there with the flag. All of us are at attention, and I think his son was 4 or 5 at the time, old enough to somewhat understand what was going on. But I could face him. I was facing him the whole time, and obviously
Oh
you're
my
you're
gosh.
you're trying to keep your military bearing, right?
Right, right.
And his he kept saying, "Where is my daddy?" And to have to keep your bearing during that was just it was heart-wrenching. Um, and anybody that's been on the honor guard knows how that feels. Um, and anybody who says, "Well, you get used to it," you know, probably a liar. You don't get
Yeah.
used to it.
Yeah.
You just don't get used to that. It's tough. It's difficult. You know, those are your brothers and sisters that you're you're honoring. You're carrying the flag for. You're laying the flag on the coffin. You're handing that flag to their loved ones, and it's difficult. It's hard, but it's what matters is that you're doing something for that
Yeah.
family at that moment to give them maybe some comfort and maybe some peace.
Thank you for sharing with us about that, Lindsay.
Hmm.
Thank you. Would you talk to us a little bit about your deployment to the United Arab Emirates?
Sure. So that was my last deployment before I retired, and it was by far the hottest one. it, it was it was so hot, um, and it was so different. So when I deployed in, right after 9/11, it was, tent city, and just it was a different feel. And then
Yeah.
you get to 2013, and there's hard structures,
Oh
and
my gosh, I bet that had to just be a crazy trip for you
it
to see him kind of bookend on opposite
yeah,
ends
and
like that.
I'm
Wow.
like, what is this? Like, there's a
Yeah.
shower with, a door that closes, and it just was. So I went from, being the new kid and post right after 9/11
Yeah.
to then the old crusty sergeant at the
Right.
2013 deployment, and I ended up being sent home medically. I fractured my back and had to be sent home, um, and that was the hardest part for me, was leaving my troops behind, because all I really cared about was my troops. We went over there as a squad of 12 plus our squad leader, so 13 altogether, and leaving them behind,
Oh my gosh.
that's just not my nature.
Right.
It's just not my nature. And thankfully it's 2013, so you can reach out via
Right.
Facebook, or you can, reach out however whatever platform it may be. Um, so I was able
Again,
to
how
check
I was
in
gonna
on them.
say
Yeah.
again how much different that had to be,
Oh,
looking at
crazy.
2002, 2003. I mean, the communication was not there like what
Right,
you'd have
right,
experienced. Okay.
right. I
It's
mean,
incredible.
2002, it was, write a letter home. In 2013, it's, oh, I'll just, ping them on Facebook.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, I'm thankful that I was able to keep in touch with them that way, but it was definitely not the same as being there with them, and, having that instant, are you good to go? Um, because that, again, that's all I really cared about, was, are you guys good?
Yeah.
And I wasn't there to make sure they were good. Um, so yeah, it was a hard deployment for the 4 months that I was there before I was sent home, and it was a hard time being home because I wasn't there, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
But um, it was difficult.
Thank you for talking to us about that, Lindsay.
Hmm.
You would spend 20 years in the Air Force doing a lot of different stuff, many, many deployments, kind of reflecting back over that 20-year career. What are you most proud of looking back?
I'm most proud of that. One, I finished. you know, I,
Absolutely.
I I
Absolutely.
reached that 20-year mark, because it wasn't always easy. It wasn't
Right.
always, it wasn't always fun. Um, but I'm proud that I have troops now that are reaching the end of their careers and have gone on to become, some of them are chiefs, some of them are senior master sergeants, And I'm so proud that they have reached that point in their career and have families and are just successful. And I'm proud that maybe I was just a little part of that. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's what makes me proud is that they're killing it out there. And that's amazing to me.
Absolutely. That's tremendous. That's tremendous. I want to shift gears here just a little bit, Lindsay, and talk about some of the stuff that you've done on the civilian side in your
Hmm.
career. Have spent time working in federal prisons. Would
Hmm.
you talk to us a bit about that experience, especially, working in them as a female?
Yeah. So when I moved to South Carolina, originally from Buffalo, New York, I I worked in a medium security federal all male prison, and it was very interesting.
I bet.
It was very interesting. I knew, like I said, I knew law enforcement was what I wanted to do. It's what I've always done, and it was, you don't realize what those guys are going through on a daily basis until you're there, and you almost feel like you're in prison with them because you're locked in for
Yeah.
8-10 hours a day too. Um, but at the end of the day, you get to go home. Uh, so yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience. I learned a lot from that experience. One that I would not do again, for sure.
Lindsay, after that time in the federal prison systems, you'd go on and you'd work at the sheriff's office. Would you
Hmm.
talk to us a bit about that work and what you found enjoyable about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked at the local sheriff's office in Greenville, and it was the most fulfilling career I had um, outside of the Air Force until what I'm doing now. But it felt like being in the military. Uh, the camaraderie that I had with my platoon that I was on.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, it was just, everybody was just, we were all on the same team. And, the part for me being a police officer was not about how many arrests I could make or how many traffic tickets I could write. It was if I could help one person during that shift,
Yeah.
maybe, get off the streets or uh, get into treatment, something of that nature, that made my day. Um, I loved that career, but that career came to an end because of family life, and that takes precedence.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great career when I had it.
That's absolutely wonderful. And something in there that I want to just flip back to, you mentioned that, how much you loved it and how great it was, kind of until now, and what you do now.
Hmm.
I know you have the pleasure now of working as a fellowship program manager at Upstate Warrior Solution. Would you talk to us about Upstate Warrior Solution and their mission?
Absolutely. So, Upstate Warrior Solution, we are a nonprofit in the upstate of South Carolina, and our mission is to connect, lead, and inspire veterans in this area across the upstate of South Carolina that need to connect to local resources. And it could be anything from connecting to the VA or connecting to maybe they need a home loan and they need to connect to a local home loan group, such as Veterans United Home Loans, whatever it may be.
Right.
I like to think of us as this A to Z. You come in and you have a need, we're going to help you find it. Um, it's not very often that vets like to ask for help.
Oof, that's a tough one.
It's a
Yep.
tough one,
Yep.
right?
That's a
I
tough
mean,
one.
I get it, you get it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the difference with us is that we're going to try to help you as much as you'll let us, but we're not going to hold your hand the whole time. We're going to try to empower you to help yourself and point you in the right direction, and we're always going to be here for you no matter what. Um, and as a fellowship program manager, my job is to take that transitioning veteran that may have just gotten out yesterday, may have been 5, 10 years ago, and is still trying to figure out what they want to do with their life
Right.
and or their career, and run them through a professional development course where they also work alongside us and our advocates who are also social workers, and network with them and try to get them acclimated back to civilian life. And it's just been great. I mean, it's changed my life. It's given me purpose again.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
tremendous.
So it's like I said, outside of the military, outside of police work, it's the best place I've been able to be a part of.
Absolutely tremendous. And thank you so much for the tremendous work you continue to do in our community of veterans. Absolutely tremendous, tremendous, Lindsay. Uh, Talk to us a little bit how you've been able to draw on your own experiences, as an airman transitioning out and apply that to the work you're doing now.
Yeah. So I think with me, because I was that citizen airman and I held different jobs while I was both in the military and then deployed and came
Right.
back to this job. I think I can take what I take from that is I take those experiences and I can relate it to different people who've come through our doors. We have a lot of different walks of life that come through our doors. We've got the veteran that served for 3 years and still now doesn't know what he wants. He or she doesn't know what they want to do. Or we've got the 20-year guy or girl that doesn't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
Um, what I've learned is the best thing you can do is number one, right off the bat, is just listen to them, listen to their story, and then sit down and come up with a game plan and say, okay, you need X, Y, and Z, and how are we going to get you there? Um, that is the most important thing. Is honestly just listening to them because 90% of the time they want somebody to listen to
For
them.
sure.
So that's what I've taken away from my experience is just in my own personal experience is just sometimes I just want somebody to listen to me.
Absolutely.
So I apply that to the people that I work with and deal with is just listening to them.
Lindsay, how can veterans in South Carolina get involved with your organization?
Sure, so they can go to our website and it's upstatewarriorsolution.org. They can also give us a call at 864-520-2073. And we have two different ways that way. There's also a Facebook group. Um, there's so many ways that you can get a hold of us. And just get involved with us. And we're never going to turn anybody away.
Tremendous. Thank you so much, Lindsay. What would you say you love the most about this work you're doing now?
What I love the most about the work I'm doing now is the people, both the people that I work with and the veterans that I get to help and work with as well.
That's tremendous. Lindsay, I want to shift gears again here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about fitness in your life.
Hmm.
I think it's safe to say it's been a big outlet and a part of your life. One of the
For
reasons you
sure.
joined the Air Guard was, to be able to compete in sports. Um, what's your favorite way to stay active?
Yeah, so up until about 3 weeks ago, it was doing indoor cycling, and now I've shifted gears to CrossFit. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I healed my body through cycling because I broke my tibia last year playing adult
Oof.
kickball. Adult
Oofta.
kickball, yeah, figure that one out. Um, but I've healed enough now where I can start getting into CrossFit, which is really what I have always wanted to do because it reminds me of being in that team atmosphere. Um, So yeah, so I started doing CrossFit. I love it, and I think it's that all encompassing workout
Yeah,
where you're moving every part of your body, and the next day you might wake up and every part of your body hurts, but you're going to get up and you're going to do it again.
that's awesome. I'm so glad you found that and are able to do it again or get after it now. That's just
Yeah, for sure.
tremendous, tremendous. Lindsay, talk to us about when you first learned about the Catch a Lift Fund.
Yeah, so my social worker at the VA actually told me about the Catch a Lift Fund. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. I said, let me go check it out. So I did, and it was great. I mean, what a great, just a great concept, a great idea, a great story. And it's been awesome. You know, I went through the whole wellness program and did the band program, and
Talk
it's just been
to
awesome.
talk to us a little bit about that, Lindsay, about your experience in the wellness program.
Yeah, so I did the weekly check-ins, and sometimes I was like, oh, I don't know if I should. I don't know because this week I wasn't so great, but but I like that accountability
Yeah.
that it held me to. Um, it was different than any other program that I've been a part of because it really held you to, like I said, that accountability, and then your coach holds you to that accountability. And I think that's the difference. Is it's not just a computer that's you're punching numbers into, and then you never
Yeah.
hear anything. There's somebody on the other end of it that's going to say, "Hey, you know how can I help you?" Or how are you doing, and how can we get you to the next step? That's that's the difference, and I think that's what helped me the most.
Oh, that's tremendous. I'm so glad to hear that, you had that experience. We're very proud of the wellness program. It's really our flagship program that we've rolled out throughout this year, and we bring veterans into it quarterly.
Hmm.
And you were a phenomenal veteran athlete throughout your time in it, and recently you were the recipient of home equipment.
Hmm.
How has having some home equipment in your home affected your lifestyle?
It's been awesome. So I didn't go crazy with home equipment. I got some, kind of standard stuff that I can do outside because I live in South Carolina and it's usually, warm here
For
most,
sure.
most of the year. Um, but I love it because my my family likes to do stuff outside. So if they're outside, I can do it outside while they're outside as well. So having the home equipment has allowed me to stay at home more um, when I'm not at work or I'm not at the gym in the morning. So I think that's a unexpected surprise of having the home equipment.
That's tremendous.
Hmm.
And I would definitely say it's my favorite part about having home equipment or training at home is being able to do it with my family, or at least my family kind of
Hmm.
being around.
Right.
Um, that's just terrific. Lindsay, what would you say to veterans? We're getting ready to open up for another wellness group here just after the start of the new year in 2022. What would you say to the men and women that are going to start that wellness program? What advice would you have for them?
My advice would be, take the leap, take the chance. Uh, it, if you look in the mirror and you say, I'm not really digging the way I look, but you're saying to yourself, I don't think I can do it, do it. Have think of yourself when you had the most confidence and when you looked your best and you felt your best, and keep that in your mind and say, I want to get back to that or as close to that as I can get. And just keep that in your mind. And I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. Um, so that would be my advice. Just take the leap and keep that goal in your mind the whole time.
Thank you, Lindsay. I've
For
got
sure.
one last question for you today. Lindsay, what does it mean to you to be a Catch a Lift Fund veteran athlete?
It means so much. I am so honored that I was chosen to be a part of this. Um, it's changed my life and my confidence in ways that I did not expect. Um, and I'm so happy to be a part of the Catch a Lift family. Honestly, I think of you guys as like family from afar.
You're our family, Lindsay. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
it's just been great.
That's tremendous. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Thank you for your service to our great country. Thank you for your time on the Honor Guard and the tremendous work you did there. And thank you so very much for the tremendous work you continue to do within our population. That's it for this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. We will return next Wednesday at 1 Eastern Time with another episode. Thank you again, Lindsay, for sharing your story and your light with all of us today. Thank you to ID Technologies for your support of the Catch a Lift podcast. Thank you to Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, and Kaylee Nasiri for all of the work you do to make this podcast possible week after week. And we thank the entire Catch a Lift team. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday, 1 Eastern live on YouTube for a chance to win Cal swag and to chat with your brothers and sisters. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.